There are so many variables in a large commercial real estate transaction. Are you able to put the pieces in place to be able to deliver a solid message of understanding? To be able to understand that you can't keep everybody happy all of the time.
Welcome to the Build It to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on the journey from millions to billions. We believe that the key to scaling your business and compounding your wealth starts every single day with the mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying biblical billionaire principles. Our ultimate goal, to help you scale and compound your wealth so you can give more or all of it away to help MVPs. Hey, I'm your host today, Brett Swartz. In every episode, we feature some of the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires, and billionaires. They share their principles, values, secrets, and wisdom, providing each of us with the insights we need to reach the next level of faith, success, and impact. I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the great state of Massachusetts in the Boston area, and he helps guide investors on how to passively create large portfolios through real estate. Build it for rent developer, a fund manager at Freedom Venture Investments, family office investment advisor, and star of the A&E TV show Flipping Boston. Please welcome to the show with me, Dave Seymour. Dave, how are we doing?
I'm well, Brad. I'm well, man. Thanks for the invite, and thanks for spending a little bit of time with us here. Excited.
Absolutely. Pleasure to have you on the show, and looking forward to get to know you a little bit more. We'll be talking about building wealth without Wall Street today, everybody. But before we go there, Dave, I want to have our listeners get to know you a little bit more. So would you tell us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not your Harvard or Yale University graduate. I actually came into this world through a couple of detours. I'm from England originally, emigrated back in 1986. I grew up in a typical blue collar working class family in the south of England. Family was all from London, and there was never any financial education. There was never any you can be wealthy mindset that was delivered to us as a family. I think my dad's best advice to me was, he said, make sure you work hard, son. Do your 8 hours. Don't lie. Don't cheat. Don't steal. Keep your nose down. Do as you're told, and everything will be all right. And nothing wrong with that, Brett. There's nothing wrong with hard work, but it didn't give me an opportunity to, one, elevate myself, and two, bring anybody else along. Rising tide, rising ships, and all that. But anyway, I came to the States, bopped around a little bit. Still with a blue-collar mentality. I worked construction for many years while I was also serving as a firefighter and a paramedic in the city of Lynn, Massachusetts. And if you're from Mass and you know what Lynn is, they always say it's Lynn, Lynn, the city of sin. You never come out the way you went in. So I'm just saying it was a tough town. But I learned the fundamentals of construction. So my whole story really is a ground up story from financial illiteracy to financial literacy, through building decks and houses and digging ditches, and just again learning from the ground up. Anyway, long story short, into 2007, 8, 9, I was a victim of the financial crisis. I too, like many others, had refinanced my primary residence way too many times. And again, Wall Street was doing well on my back, right? Somebody was pressing a button somewhere saying, you know what you need? You need an adjustable rate mortgage. That's what you need, David. You're a firefighter. You deserve it. And, I paid the price for that. 2007, 8, my house was in pre-foreclosure. I was looking at my wife, and I'm like, we got to go. We got to go. And, in 1990, January of 1990, as a 23-year-old man, grace of God came into my life and removed the obsession for alcohol. And I've been sober almost 35 years in January, and that's all God's grace. And I got to be honest with you, that time in my life during financial crisis and being a victim rather than a victor over the way that Wall Street managed the system, it was the closest I probably came to picking up a drink in that period of time. And I remember screaming and shouting at my God, and I'm going to have a little chat. You know what I mean? We're gonna have a conversation. And if you're going to rumble with God, you're never going to win. But I tried. And anyway, I ended up in a real estate seminar of all places, Brett. Seriously. And for the first time in my life, I started learning some terminology that I'd never experienced before, like leverage and other people's money and service. Helping widows and orphans, those in distress, according to biblical structure. And it resonated with me. It made sense, and I went for it. And the progression from single family rehabs, buy, fix, and flip, some private lending. I was able to sell my house on a short sale. I learned the power of broke, as a guy I once knew said. There's power in being broke, and that forced its way into small multi-family assets. I learned how to manage accurately. I learned how to manage with pain, tenants, toilets, and trash. I've been there, done that, climbed that mountain, got that T-shirt, and there's a progression. You can, I don't know what, I think it's maybe the entrepreneurial spirit, but it's like every 7 years I seem to go through a resurgence and a reimagination of what the next 7 years are going to look like. And COVID was a kick in the pants. And that transitioned us over to, I got together with a dear friend of mine. He's my age group, late 50s, early 60s, a gentleman by the name of Walter Novicki, 30 plus years of redevelopment, capital asset deployment, raising money, building new structures, repositioning existing multifamily structures. And everything he had done was in the Cape Coral, Fort Myers market, Southwest Florida. And as I'm sure you're aware and your listeners are, if you want to invest $1 to make $1, you want to put that in the dirt in Florida because that's where the action is. And that is what's transitioned us into the structure we're in today at Freedom Venture Investments. We're a ground-up private equity development company, multifamily assets as well as some commercial assets. We'll take on a repositioning now that the cap rates are adequate. Now that the free money and the silly money is no longer in the market, screwing it up for everybody else, right? Smile and nod, you understand. Now people realize that 10% rent increase for the next 10 years is probably not true. That it could be predatory. I don't know. So yeah, that's where we are today. So we're moving investor capital into those projects in Florida.
Dave,
How'd I do? That was only 7 minutes. That was pretty good for me, brother.
Incredible. 7 minutes, 42 seconds. No, that was incredible. Wow. There's so much there. I want to just cover a couple highlights and then we'll dive into building wealth without Wall Street. But I think essentially you actually kind of did a great, I think, thesis for this episode because you indeed were building wealth with I guess within Wall Street, within the traditional system, right? It sounds like you're a firefighter, and you were the more the mindset and the mentality of building wealth was just different, right? And the financial crisis was the awakening for you, and you at first would say you're let's say more of a victim mindset, but then you went to a victor mindset as you got educated with a real estate seminar and how to leverage other people's money, and how to really help people in their houses, stay in their houses or whatnot, make deals, make happen there for them. And now you're on the front lines of ground up multifamily development and trying to help create even more housing, part of this housing crisis that we're on. Is that kind of a fair summary, Dave? I know there's probably some pieces.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, very much so. I think one of the key mental swings, if you will, for me was when I was educated in retirement investing. And what I mean by that is the 401k or the 401 chaos, as I refer to it. I'll never forget, I was in a seminar one time and a gentleman mentioned the term self-directed IRAs, solo 401ks. And it was like this newfangled terminology to me. It was like, I'm a guy who fights fires, digs ditches, and I put money in 401k plans and government pensions. What do you mean I can direct that money? And unfortunately, when Wall Street got a hold of the 401k system, in the late 70s, early 80s, when the big employers realized that people were living longer And there was some challenges around this defined benefit, this pension plan that everybody had been buying into. So up comes the 401k. Wall Street grabs a hold of it, and decides to become more of a salesman than a steward of investor capital. And when you start to look at the fee structure and compounding costs over compounding returns, and the average balance in a 401k account in our country is around $167,000. Well, do the math, sweet cheeks. There's no longevity in that, right? And then you begin to wonder why the middle class shrinks, and we've got the challenges that we have. And I just became like I almost feel like I needed a banner, you know what I mean? I wanted to lock arms and we shall overcome. You know what I mean? It was like, I really did. I got really emotional with it. And it was almost mission based for me to get the message out that there are other ways to get to retirement. And
by the way, can I touch on that?
Go ahead. Of course. Yeah.
This is so key. I was actually reading some leadership this morning with my team on just this idea of our calling, right? And it talked about, the quote is by Jim Rohn. It says, "May the calling in your life burn so hot that life's lukewarm distractions hold no appeal." It really feels like what you just said there was your awakening to this, right, became a calling, and that calling started to burn so hot that it's like, instead of fighting fires, you were fighting for freedom for the wealth of America. Is that a fair summary, Dave?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And look at you going straight to my guy, Jim Rohn. I went to his memorial in LA when he passed. I was there with a couple of friends. And those that seek shall find, right? Those that ask, right? The answer will be given, knock on the door will be open. And I think that the big challenge has always been is that there is a numbing in society today, right? I don't want to go super geopolitical and all that stuff, but we're numbed into not asking questions anymore. That sheeple mentality, and we've seen some massive examples of it in the past 5-10 years. So when I would work as a firefighter, and I'll use it as an analogy, whether it be a burning structure or a medical scenario, to put out a burning structure or to deal with somebody in a cardiac event, something had to happen prior to that. Questions needed to be asked. Hey, Lieutenant, what do I pump 1 3/4 line at if I'm going up 3 flights of stairs? Kid, you need to be pumping out at 150 PSI at the tip. Right? Now, that doesn't mean anything unless you want to go fight a fire, right? What drug do I use for tachycardia or bradycardia when grandpa's circling the drain and, everybody's there screaming and shouting and hollering, save grandpa? Well, I needed to get trained. I needed to ask questions. I needed repetition. I needed revolution, right? I needed all of these steps prior to it. And I think what's happened is that when it comes to our finances, we've been trained and we've been encouraged to not ask questions. Think about your 401k. 90% of this country has no idea what's in their 401k account. They know they're in mutual funds, but they don't know what's inside the mutual funds. They don't know how much they earn. They don't know how much they're getting juiced on the backside of it. They don't know that there are fees in this country that legally don't have to be disclosed to the investor, to the mutual fund depositor, right? So if we're trained not to ask questions, what chance do we stand, right? What chance do we stand? So when I moved into this area, it really is finance is what it's all about. It just happens that for me, my business is sticks and bricks. But at the end of the day, it's still people. When somebody gives you a check for $500,000 and they say, hey, Dave, that's my retirement account. Don't screw it up, buddy. Don't mess it up, right? It's money. It's people, expressing their hopes and desires for their futures, and putting it in the hands of somebody who's not only understands what they're doing and can execute on the plan, but has got some experience. I don't know how it is in your world, Brett, but something that always rubs me the wrong way is somebody will come into like the real estate scenario. either on the investor side or the brokerage side or whatever their piece is. And they say, Dave, I've been in this business 8 years now. I've seen it all, right? I've seen it all in 8 years. And I look at my partner, Walter, who's, been in the business 30 plus. I've been in it over 20. And it's like, you haven't seen anything yet, unless you've been through a couple of cycles and a couple of recessions. So again, asking questions. And if that can be encouraged, then we can be of service. But if you don't tell me what you want through questioning, I don't know how I can help you, right? Because at the end of the day, right?
By the way, you can learn more about Dave Seymour by going to freedomventure.com. That's freedomventure.com. He helps individuals grow wealth and generate tax-efficient passive income. It's a private real estate fund manager and syndicator that builds, buys, and lends to multifamily real estate projects throughout the U.S. Yeah, without the question, right, there's no awareness, right, or without the willingness to ask the question. I think people know to ask questions. I just think, I think part of the problem is people don't know, they don't know to ask questions. I think the other part of the problem is their willingness to focus, right, and to get on the other side of that. Because sometimes if they ask the question, that means they get the answer. That means they have to take responsibility, right? So I think this is all areas of our life, whether it be faith, finances, fitness, personal development, leadership, family, legacy. Like there's a part of fear versus faith, right? And fear stops us from asking the questions. Fear stops us from asking the actual question that we really need to be asking ourselves. Fear stops us from, moving from, staying within the victim mentality versus the victor, right? Whereas faith, it empowers us, right, to say that the vision can be stronger than where I'm at today. The vision can be better. And it pulls me to ask those tough questions. It pulls me to look, inward and say, how am I responsible? In fact, we're studying the coach, Tim Grover, for Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade. And Tim talks about this idea of how Jordan and Kobe especially, right? All the guys he coached, Dwayne Wade, LeBron, how they see failure different. Number one, they let failure sting. Like they don't just dismiss it or put it under the rug or just dismiss it, like, just go by, right? They don't just get right back up and let it go. They actually stay down a little bit. And they let it sting, right? They let that emotional, like some of that pain build in. In fact, there's a story of Michael Jordan playing against Kobe Bryant, and Kobe's kind of in the pinnacle of his career, and Michael's like at the sunset, right? He's coming out. He's at the Washington Wizards, and the Lakers show up to play Jordan, and Kobe's wearing the Michael Jordan shoes, like a lot of us did growing up, right? Loving Michael Jordan. So he's wearing them as a way to honor Jordan. He's wearing them as a way because he's always kind of wanted to be Jordan or be better than Jordan. Well, Jordan gets the best of him in this game and kind of outplays Kobe, and the Wizards win. And basically after the game, he goes up to Kobe and says, "Hey, Kobe," he goes, "you can wear the shoes," he goes, "but you'll never fill them." Okay, he says this to Kobe, and he does it, in a way that fires Kobe up. Kobe feels the pain. It says for 2 weeks that Kobe didn't say a word. It hurt him so much, he didn't say it for 2 weeks. He didn't talk to his family, his teammates, and he was just bent on just doubling down on his work ethic, on his practice, asking himself the tough questions. And 2 weeks later, he comes back and he dominates Jordan. And Jordan laughed afterwards and basically passes the mantle, right? Like, hey, this is now your league, and take it over. But the point of that is, I also think it's important to ask the right questions, but also be willing to sit in the pain, right? To like say what went wrong, and then the next question to ask is, how am I responsible? How am I responsible? And the next question Tim Grover talks to ask is, he says this: how will I use my pain strategy to change my approach so that this never happens again? So talk about that for you, Dave, when you went through the transformation, right? And you went through to help people, and now you took the pain so that it never happens to you or any of the people that you help ever again.
Yeah, that's a great story. I resonate with so much of that stuff. I really do. All of us, I think, who have any modicum of success that can be recognized, have achieved that success with somebody else. Like the self-made millionaire is a bunch of BS, right? It's a team sport. Just like MJ being where he was, Kobe being where he was. You look at all those guys. Yeah, they might have excelled within the team, but if there was nobody to play with, then they'd just be shooting hoops in the backyard all on their own, right? Living their own dream. So number one, recognizing that it's a team effort, recognizing that you as an individual have, not maybe, but have to identify your own secret sauce. What is it that you have? I am not the best at analytics, ever. I fail miserably at analytics. I know just enough to be dangerous. I say frequently to my guys, just tell me what's going in the bottom right-hand corner of that spreadsheet, and I trust that you've done all the right work to get us down to that number going forward. So what for me personally, it's always been a case of understanding failure, understanding that it's okay to fail forward, right? And fail often. Fail often. You know, the definition of success itself really is based on the fact of, hey, I tried something and it didn't go well. Now what? And here's some of the most dominating thoughts that have contributed to me being in the position I am today. Was a guy said to me, he said, I will teach you something after you ask the question. But once you are aware, you cannot be unaware again. And what that does is it takes the responsibility of what happens next off of everybody else, and now I own it. And then he said to me, now that you own it because of the awareness that you have, what are you going to do about it? And he might have used some profanities afterwards. What are you going to do about it? So I would have those discussions with the mentors, with the folks that were influencing me early on. And then there was the accountability, which I feel is a dirty word for a lot of people, right? Unfortunately, we tend to be in a society where it's everybody else's fault, right? You triggered me, it's your fault, this, that, blah, 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 blah. Jack Canfield taught through his development work, he taught that, I'm responsible for my responses to the external actions around me, the stimuluses, right? It's not the fact that somebody did or said something, it's how I reacted to it, right? What did I do with that information afterwards? So once I am aware, I cannot be unaware. Then what are you going to do about it? And then the next kicker for me was, are my actions in line with my intentions? Are my actions in line with my intentions? Because I don't know about you, brother, I can talk a good game, right? I really can. I am a linguistic genius. Just ask me, right? I can talk a good game. But what are the actions? What are the results afterwards? And then when you meet those barriers, when you meet the investor who said yes and it was really a no, when you meet the seller who doesn't give you all the accurate information, when you meet the people will let you down consistently and you will find failure everywhere you look. But what do you do with it afterwards? And again, it's ask questions so that when I get into this situation again, whatever the mechanics of that process were, when I see it again, because I will, I've now got a toolbox to use that I didn't have before. So if I don't have those failures, if I want to live in this world wrapped up in bubble wrap, if I don't want to offend, right? If I don't want to confront, if I don't want to ask the hard questions, if I don't do those things, guess what? Then you're not going to progress. But that's okay as long as you stay where you are. And I personally was uncomfortable. It's discomfort that creates movement for me. If I am uncomfortable, if I'm in a position where I'm praying, show me the way, Father. Let thy will be done, not mine. If I am in resistance all the time, and we've all experienced it, if I'm in resistance and I'm not in flow, then I'm probably not moving in the right direction. But it doesn't mean I quit. I want to make sure I exhaust the avenues first, learn from past mistakes, actions in line with intentions, ask good questions, ask more good questions, get more information, and then act upon it. So I get a little elevated, brother. You got me going.
Dave, I'm loving all of it, by the way. There's so many golden nuggets there. I want to kind of dial in a little bit on, are my actions in line with my intentions? I think this is maybe some wisdom here. So when before you're reacting you versus reacting, you're looking to respond in wisdom and respond with accountability, respond with honesty, right? Respond, like the yes, but it was really a no, right? Yes, but it was really a no. And look at how you're responsible there. What what is the wisdom there to know if your actions are in line with the intentions, right? Like the wisdom to know the difference. Like walk us through the mindset or the toolbox of getting into that piece of it there. Because I get what you're saying, but now maybe try to make it practical for us if you can.
Yeah, I can do that. Absolutely. So again, I'll use the example of details and spreadsheets and minutiae, right? All of the things, KPIs. None of those things are my level of expertise. I know enough to be competent in the conversation, but my actions are not in line with those intentions. Those intentions of KPIs, underwriting, detail, all of, contracts. Oh my Lord, the amount of contracts we have to go through, right? It's not my world, right? So my intentions are not aligned with those parts of my business. So then you say, well, what is my intention? You know what I'm really good at? I'm really good at communication. I'm really good at bringing investors along and giving them the information that is integral to their successes with their capital. I'm really good at telling somebody stuff is going sideways. Hold on. Let me fix it. Let me do what we do. I think in the world of business and private equity, somebody may say, I'm a private equity manager, I'm a fund manager, I'm ground up development, XYZ, whatever their classification or status is that they say they do. And yet they won't talk about it when stuff goes bad. Well, guess what? That's a part of this game as well. There are so many variables in a large commercial real estate transaction. Are you able to put the pieces in place to be able to deliver a solid message of understanding? To be able to understand that you can't keep everybody happy all of the time? Did you bring in people in the beginning with clarity of expectation? Don't oversell it. So your question is intentions and actions, right? I know where my actions are. They're based with my understanding of my abilities. Therefore, I can intend to move in the right direction. But as soon as I come out of my lane and I start to try and micromanage, my actions aren't in line with my intentions. That's all resistance to me over there. Now, you have to have those pieces of your business in place. So therefore, you have to have the right team in place to be able to execute on success. So that it's a complete model that moves forward. And just know what your position is, know your role within the company. Yeah, it says I'm the CEO. What does that mean? It just means that, I get stuck with all the crap at the end of the day, but that's my skill set. I'm okay with that. I don't get so much of the glory, but I get plenty of the crap, but I'm okay with
This
that.
is good. I think this really helped, right? So intentions, it sounds like, are really your core competencies or your core
Yeah.
gifts and strengths, right? And by the way, your intention should also be to be living in those strengths and to be
Yeah.
executing those strengths. And also, the intention is to not be living in those things that of which are not your strengths, and have the team members to be able to do that. So understanding it, and so it sounds like even practically. So if you have all the data, someone else has the data, has the analytics, is putting it all together, and then here's the big picture. Here's the big number on the bottom right hand corner, right? And then for you as the visionary, you as the CEO, it's like, hey, now how do I use this data to solve the problem? Like what next needs to
Correct.
be happen, right? Like I need to say it's a tough conversation, right? I need to tell things are going sideways to the client or the investor, right? And I need to own that as a whole for the company. And then, hey, by the way, we're also going to solve this, right? Like here's our plan to move it forward and to communicate, to galvanize, to bring that all together. Is that a fair summary, Dave?
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. One of my investors the other day, I was sharing some delays on a project with him. Educated guy, good guy. He's got a couple of different PPMs that he's been working on and working with for a while. And we were having a conversation, and I said, "Look, here's what's going on. Here's the delay. Here's why. Here's the resolution. I've got an action plan in place, et cetera, et cetera." And then we go to kind of like the personal side. We're just shooting the breeze. And this individual said he was going off to the Bahamas or something. He wanted to build a high-end rental product in the Bahamas. And he said the challenge with the Bahamas is it's all island time, right? He said nobody's working. And he said, Dave, you should maybe calm down a little bit and work island time. And I said to him, I said, I'm the steward of your money. and you just suggested I work part-time. Is that really, is that really what you want me to do? And he kind of laughed. But my point is like, even in those moments when, you have the uncomfortable conversation, if there is truth from the very beginning, right? There's a lot of garbage in this business, as there is with Wall Street and money, et cetera, et cetera. But if you can be true to yourself, true to your clients, explain to them, this is our plan. It's based on our experience. Here's the variables. We've stress tested the model X, Y, Z. Then I tend to find that it's easier. It's easier to get through the quagmire that is money.
This is great. So now let's get really practical, right? So we've been talking, a little bit about like the big problem with, not asking the right questions, not being aware and facing those questions, right? Really talking about leadership, personal development. We talked about the pain that you went through, the 2008 crash, and where you're at now. And so now let's focus on like how you guys are doing that. Talk about these developments, talk about these opportunities, like practically speaking. What does the multifamily development? Where are you doing them at? What if an average investor or credit investor, let's put it that way, wants to work with you? What would that look like?
Yeah, sure. So we've gone through a couple of different company iterations since our inception after the COVID crisis, the lockdown. We really came out of that. My hard money lending business kind of got wrapped up real quick during COVID because Wall Street stopped, sending out the non-QM loans. We were doing a line of credit rip for the mortgages. So what happened was in COVID, we came out of COVID thinking we're going to see this massive opportunity within multifamily. People won't be paying rents. There's going to be distress. Let's gear up for that. And we started. Who could have ever seen or known, right, that there would be this influx of all this money? Right? You don't have to pay your rent. It's COVID. Here's all this free money. It's COVID. And instead of seeing a raise or an increase in cap rates in the markets, we obviously saw cap compression. So I would not put a deal together based on a lack of fundamental underwriting, right? So repositioning 240 units. You cannot, in good faith, bring an investor in saying that, your income side of your equation is going to be X, Y, Z 7-10 years out because of a 7 to 10% rent year-over-year rent increase. That's fraud in my mind, right? So we looked at that. The way to find a deal wasn't there. It didn't fit our buy box. And we focused wholly in Southwest Florida. We saw the massive migrations from COVID, from California to Arizona, from the Northeast down to Florida, Carolinas, Texas obviously took a nice bump off of this migration. So we looked at that and we went, well, now let's go into the fundamentals again, because everything has to be based on the fundamentals, supply and demand. And when you go into Southwest Florida, I'll use Cape Coral, where we're doing 3 projects right now. Cape Coral did a study that shows they are underfunded in housing units by 10,000 units through 2027. So if Cape Coral says we need 10,000 units by 2027, well, let's reverse engineer and see how many they have either in process or have built. I think the study came out in 2020 or 21. They've only built maybe 1,500 units. So I want to build as much as I can, as fast as I can to meet that demand. We're continuing to see an increase in rent in those markets. So in a ground-up development project, we'll acquire the land, we'll get it entitled, we'll do the engineering, we'll do the architectural. Some investors can come in with us early in that land acquisition phase. They have an expectation or a targeted profile return anywhere between a 3.5 to a 4 equity multiple on their money over a 5 to 7 year period. We've bumped it out just because of the cost of capital and some of the challenges we're facing in the marketplace. We were at a 3 to 5, but realistically, we're probably at a 5 to 7 now. Some investors might come in with us on existing structures, a repositioning. On those ones, they're a 3 to 5 equity multiple. We'll find a property that's a 3 to 5 year exit. They'll be coming in at a 1.52 equity multiple on a repositioning. So not as aggressive as a profile return on those. It's all targeted numbers. But in those deals there, we'll look for properties that are still in distress, that need some deferred maintenance, that might have some, tenant challenges. We'll take those over, we'll reposition those. So again, investors can come with us for a long term. They can come with us for a short term. We have fixed income funds at 10% that we put in front of our investors. Think of that as a bond almost for Freedom Venture Investments. The soft costs of putting these projects together is pretty strong. So we just recapitalize that money as we get into pulling up the LP equity again. Again, yeah.
Got it. Okay, this is great. I love it. Now, what are you actually building? Are you building, beach houses? Are you building Airbnbs? Are you building small multifamily? What are you actually building, Dave?
Yeah, great. There is way too much Class A bikinis and palm trees and swimming pools and gated communities in Florida. We don't need any more of those. So that asset class is $3,500 to $4,500, as much as $5,000 a month just in rents. Well, the workforce housing that supports the Florida market, police, fire, restaurant workers, nurses, dental assistants, think of what supports that community in Florida. Well, they need housing. They can't afford a single family house because of the ludicrousness of the economy right now. So they need clean, decent, affordable housing. So what we build is what's called workforce housing. So we have 104 units. Will be complete maybe end of this year, Q4. 104 unit workforce housing. Rents are $1,800 to $2,000 a month. We're just about to, we actually did. We're in contract now on another 100 units across 2 different projects. Again, workforce housing. These will be above mixed use assets, because Cape Coral is still. They want to get the commercial bump on the tax rates, but they still need the housing. So they like the mixed units that we have, and then we're looking at another 7-story facility, again housing and mixed use, also in Cape Coral. So we're busy. That's primarily what we're focusing our time on.
I'm curious, on the per unit basis, like on those 104 units, they're getting $1,800 to $2,000 a month. Like, what's the average all-in cost, about X per unit, withholding costs, everything considered? What would you say the average is on the 104 units?
The 104, we're probably all in at about $220 a unit.
Okay.
200, 220 a unit.
And how long does it take to build? You say 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah, it depends how far we are along at the time of acquisition. So if I'm buying the land and taking it through full entitlement, from beginning to end, it takes me about 2.5, 3 years.
Okay.
So my early in investors wouldn't see any cash flow until end of year 2.5, start of 3, as we stabilize the asset, get out of construction loans into perm financing.
So if someone put $1 million in a deal like that, right? You from the beginning, right? So before you said from the long haul, let's say in 5 years that million might turn into you said 3.5 to 4x, right? Is that a fair?
Yeah, that's what we target out. Yeah. So that million,
could turn into 3 million, could turn into 4 million, kind of right around there.
Yeah, that's what we target for. Yeah. Again, it's aggressive. Yeah. But that investor is also sitting in a negative cash flow position for that first 18 months to 2 years until they turn. But they're used to it, right? This isn't the average investor who's throwing penny stocks around.
Yeah, they're credit investors. Yeah, our listeners are a lot of them are credit investors, and are very successful entrepreneurs, millionaires, billionaires. So I like that. Now the question is it cash out refi typically that you're paying back the investor? Is that the general business plan, or are you like most of the time we're actually going to sell? We're going to sell.
It's a great question. So being the quote experts, right, the GP, the sponsors of the asset, inside our PPMs, our private placement memorandums, we leave that optionality on there. Nobody can see the future, right? Nobody can see the future. So we're invested alongside our investors. So we're all looking for the best return we can on the capital that we put to work. So if we see an opportunity for a cash out refi that makes sense, we'll take it. But generally we'll have a 3 to 5 to 7 year sell into the market exit strategy, so that we can, pay back the investors with their spiff, with their return profile.
Got it. We're talking with Dave Seymour, everybody. If you want to learn more about him, you can go to Freedom Venture That's freedomventure.com. Help you grow wealth and generate tax efficient passive income through multifamily development. A lot of it in Florida. He is out of Boston. I do want to take one other turn before we go to the lightning round, and it's tax. It's capital gains tax, right? And so
Yeah.
you're in Boston. In fact, we're working on an asset sale for a business sale out of Boston right now. We just flew there, met with a client. They're selling like a $30 million multiple dental practice business. It's like 8 or 9 different locations. They've expanded. And they're looking at massive capital gains tax. And they're actually moving to Florida once they sell the business. But Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, California, you have the massive capital gains tax, right? And we found here, I'm a founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions, that the 1031 exchange not only doesn't work for business sales, but it's also not very flexible when it comes to, like-kind replacement requirement, restrictions, the timing of everything, even to wanting to develop. So we have a solution, and I'm just curious what you think about it, if you've heard of it before, but it's called a deferred sales trust, not to be confused with the Delaware statutory trust, which is another form of a 1031. But essentially, you can sell any asset of any kind, Dave. You can defer the capital gains tax. You can eliminate the need for the 1031 exchange forever. There's no timing restrictions. This clients could sell the $30 million business, defer about 40% of the proceeds. They could defer all the tax, right, and have an extra 35 to 40%. Then the funds can go into developments, all tax deferred. They can go right into passive Reg D funds. They can go into lending funds. They can go into the stock market. We've also done it with Bitcoin. We've done it with primary homes. We've done it with stock. But I'm curious, have you heard of this before? And then number 2, what would it mean if tax deferred, the capital could flow from these different avenues without any opportunity zones, without any life insurance, without any crazy stuff? It just sells, defer, and go right into your stuff.
Yeah, I have heard about it. And we've been looking for the right association, affiliation, partner to one, educate our own investors, but then at the same time have assets on our side of the equation that they can direct and put offerings in front of. Look, anytime that we don't give the government $1 more than we have to legally, I'm doing backflips, right? When you look at businesses are designed for tax deferment. Working people are designed to pay the taxes into the government so that the government can keep doing what they're doing. The more people we employ, the more money the government makes. So, the deferred sales trust, I have a, 3rd grade education on it. I know that there are some moving parts within it that need to be addressed appropriately, and that's your expertise. But when you start looking at those vehicles of tax deferment, when you start looking at depreciation, cost segregation, there are opportunities where I've seen K1s, or I've heard of K1s, right, that have been superior to the amount of capital that's been invested. Like the ability to understand the tax game is a critical piece. And just to wrap up a little bit for you on taxes, my 2nd year in business, I had to pay twice the amount of my firefighter's salary in taxes, right? Double my salary as a firefighter, and that's what I owed in taxes. That was an incredibly powerful, wonderful year for me because it meant I did very, very well on the income side, obviously, but I also at the same time had tax strategies in place which negated a lot more of the taxes that I would have had to put in there. So there are folks like you who live, breathe, and eat these strategies. And what again, it's my intentions, right? My intentions are for my investors to do the very, very best they can. So with your help, I'm now able to do that. So yeah, this was a great call for me already.
Absolutely. Yeah. People want to learn more about what we do, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. In fact, we wrote a book on it called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. And it
Nice.
talks about the regular 1031 exchange, the regular Delaware 1031, Delaware statutory trust, the deferred sales trust, cost segregation, opportunity zones. Really building a capital gains exit plan. Because if you don't build the plan, the government is happy to take, 20, 30,
Yeah.
40, sometimes 50% of the proceeds at closing. And you've done the work for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So you want to actually have a plan in place, and you set it up prior to closing. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to check out the book, or to check out on Amazon, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. That being said, Mr. Dave Seymour, are you ready for the lightning round?
I guess so. Do I have a choice?
It'll be fast. So here we go. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure to tell yourself to do?
Get out of the way of yourself. Stop with the fear and just get into the action. Faith over fear. You said it earlier, for sure.
Yep. Faith over fear, baby. Love it. Next question. Number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Michael Schwartz's book about the formation of his company. Great book.
Excellent.
I can't remember the title of it, but it was
Great
good.
last name. Great last name. The next question. Number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
It's action. Do it. It's action. It really is. You can talk about it all day long, but you got to do something.
Excellent.
All right, let me go back on that. Here's what it is. You don't have to know everything to do something. That's
There
it.
it is.
That's it in
You don't
formation.
know everything to do something. I like it. Next question. What are you most curious about right now?
What my wife wants for her birthday.
It's a good thing to be curious about, and
No, look, this election's nuts. I'm curious about how the hell we're going to get through whatever happens next. That's what I'm curious about.
likewise, yeah, it'll be interesting times. Next question. Number one way you're using like Chat GPT or AI?
Yeah, we use AI a lot for our education platform. So Wealth Without Wall Street, the YouTube channels and the deliverables to entice investors to ask questions. A lot, AI is a trip, man. It's an absolute trip. So they're even working with AI bots and all that stuff for some of my deliverables. So it's interesting.
Awesome. And the very last question, and it's kind of the foundation of the podcast, and it has to do with practicing a mindset and also practicing with actions stewardship over ownership. I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and these gifts have been given us to be a blessing and help to others. So how are you best practicing stewardship over ownership, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, honesty, right? Just be integrity and access. In my world, there are a lot of big businesses that manage billions of dollars, and you will not be able to talk to the guy in charge. At Freedom Venture, we take a lot of pride in the fact that that stewardship is dependent upon access. You can talk to me, you can get through to me, you can get through to my team. We're big enough to find the best deals, but we're not too big that we can't communicate with our investors. You can actually call us at 781-922-4418, 781-922-4418. Make sure you let my assistant know that you heard us here on this podcast. But I think that's so important to be able, because they trust us, man. Guy said to me one time, he said, Dave, I understand the real estate transaction, but I'm investing more on the jockey and less on the horse. He said, so, go run the race. And I never forgot that.
Well, Dave, you're running a great race, and I want to encourage you to keep continuing to run in that race. I want to thank you for being on the show, sharing with us a load of wisdom, guidance, thoughts on leadership, on faith, on business, on building wealth without Wall Street, and on being a freedom fighter for the people, right, who are out there looking to build wealth in a way that's transparent, accountable, accessible, and it's multifamily. It's helping with the attainable workforce housing crisis that's going on. Please keep doing what you're doing. And for our listeners, again, who want to get in touch with you one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
You got freedomventure.com, freedomventure.com. You can call us at 781-922-4418. 4418, and a human being will answer the phone.
Awesome, Dave. Thank you so much. I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Build to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors like you every single day on their journey from millions to billions. We believe that the key to scaling your business and compounding your wealth starts every day with the mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying biblical billionaire principles. Our ultimate goal to help you scale and compound your wealth and life so you can give more or all of it away to help MVPs. I'm your host, Brett Swartz, and I appreciate everyone listening today. Again, check out the book as well, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. This is on Amazon, and this will give you the opportunity to build a plan that will help you defer 25 to 50% more, or actually defer 100% of the capital gains tax, but have an extra 25 to 50% working for you in what's called a deferred sales trust or other ways to also defer capital gains tax. Check out Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. With that, everybody, we appreciate everyone listening, watching. Please rate, review, subscribe, share this with someone it could be a blessing and help today. And we thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye now.
Thanks.